You're thinking how? Of course, Tucker Carlson thinks we shouldn't be sending these arms and this money and all this stuff to Ukraine because I don't know, he's beholden to Putin or some shit. Sure. But yeah, sure, certainly there's a sensible human being out there. One who, let me see if, make sure I can set this at yeah, there we go. I can set the quality higher on this, and I don't know why. One who seldom feels the need to use silly voices or lame 8th grade level sarcasm, and certainly not someone who dresses like an absolute fucking asshole. Look, what is this? Choo Choo Glenn Beck? What is this? I'm Barn Worker Beck, your favorite Fisher-Price action figure. Why does this asshole look like he would be hanging outside an elementary school in the 30s, trying to create stories where they went, Jimmy walked to the store to get some horehound candy and some fresh cream for his mother to bake his favorite cookies, and we never saw him again. He disappeared into the moors. But at night, if you put your ear to the window, you can, and in the winter, you won't be able to pull your ear off. It gets stuck. It's gross. Look at this shit. What the fuck is he wearing? I mean, I know he's wearing, like, you know, we all get older. Vanity comes for every man eventually. But what is this? What is that around his neck? What is happening? He's probably sick again? Yeah, I don't doubt it. Farmer Beck. He's got a goiter. He's trying to corral. I'm trying to lasso that goiter. Get it all wrapped up. Keep it tight. I understand if a goiter breaks free, that thing will move in under your house, and then you'll have an infestation, and then you have to call the government insect people, and they come out there with some howitzers. I don't know how it works, but it's gross. He's covering one of Stu's hickeys. They left him. I don't know. Honest to God, what the ever-loving shit. What is he wearing? Because he has it. All right. This makes no sense to me. This is just this is goofy as fuck. He thinks he's a dandy. No. Glenn has what? Has Glenn ever had DUIs? No, because I don't think he drives himself anywhere. I don't think he's driven himself anywhere in a couple of decades. Does he have a nunt, you mean? Yeah. No. It's too. He's got a bullfrog happening is what he's got, but probably selling neck scarves. Yeah, these are rapture neck scarves. You got, even if you're buck naked, you wear one of these around your neck, and then there'll be something left behind when you're taken up with the Lord. Okay, so this is Biden sends Ukraine tanks. What does he want? War with Russia? Because we're anti-aircraft and like weapons and javelins and fucking howitzers and long-range HIMARS and all that kind of stuff. Now tanks? Jesus!
So we're sending tanks.
Yes, we are.
Flashback. Don't kid yourself. If we send tanks and airplanes, well, don't kid yourself. That's World War III. Okay, what's changed? I'd like to know what.
Also, I don't know who he's quoting. What's changed? Your silly little voice.
What's changed? Have we had a debate on any of this?
We're not sending troops, motherfucker. And by the way, yes, we have. When earlier last year and late last year, when they were going through the budget, there was a debate about how much. Because some people wanted to send fucking zero, and some people were like, send $250 billion and get this shit over with, and other people were dragging their heels, and we ended up with 2 installments of about 60.
Are you for the $60 billion?
Yes. Well, I'm for it the way I think a lot of people are for the ACA. I wish it had a public option, but I'm still for it. I'm for every step forward. I wish it would step further, but I'm for this. You see, I don't have to be against it because it's too little, because anything is better than nothing. And I'm not an insane TYT dork asshole who's like, if we can't get everything, nobody gets anything. So yes, I'm for the 60. Would I rather be 100? You fucking A right. It's the cheapest opportunity to take down the Russian crime and war machine in the history of the world. As far as a percentage of fucking GDP
that we already sent over to Ukraine.
Yep. Yeah. I think a third installment's a good idea.
Are you cool with that? Because
yes, I am.
I'm not cool with that.
You're not cool at all. Look at you. You look like somebody like bleached their Captain Kangaroo doll.
I haven't liked that from the beginning.
Yeah, because you want Russia to win this. We know. You fucking hate this country. You just hide in it.
Why are we doing it?
Because Wagner Group and Russian military rape and murder squads are killing civilians at a massive clip, and because past is prologue, they are planning to do this to every surrounding country that isn't a part of NATO. And then, from that position of power, eventually launch strikes on NATO. They have fucking said so.
Why are we doing it?
Because the vast majority of Americans support Ukraine in their self-defense.
There's no debate on the floor of the House and the Senate. We don't.
Because, you know why? One of the reasons why there's been no big debate on the floor of the House and Senate is because Republicans were concerned that if that debate happened, the Freedom Caucus that would come out against it, just like Rand Paul, who would like draw a hard line, fuck Ukraine, would have. If you think there was no red wave this time, imagine if they had said this shit last June.
We don't have that anymore. We don't do that anymore.
You never did that.
So why aren't we debating the money? And then how come it was exposed last week? What was it? 10 executives from Ukraine, 10 different politicians had to resign.
Yes. They're brooming out corrupt people who are taking advantage of this. I've seen a bunch of shit about this. This is the same complaint when you hear Marsha Blackburn go, oh my God, they've seized 2,100 pounds of fentanyl at the border. Motherfucker, that's what they're supposed to do. You're supposed to get rid of the corrupt people. The corrupt people are supposed to resign. You're supposed to hear about them resigning because of the corruption to let you know that they're taking corruption seriously, rather than 10 years from now look back and go, oh, those motherfuckers took half the money that went through there. Are you fucking stupid? What is this? When?
Because they've been funneling our money off?
No.
They're buying houses and vacations and sports cars.
Yes, and they got caught and they got broomed. They're supposed to. That's how it's fucking supposed to work.
We all knew this.
No, you didn't. Otherwise, you named everybody. And again, this is one of the complaints. This is the same shit that Jimmy does. The same stuff that Glenn does. This is the same stuff that Rand Paul, the same thing that Tucker does. They just say blanketly, fuck the entire Ukrainian government, Zelensky included. They're all corrupt. And then when corruption is weeded out by everybody else, they're like, see, I told you the whole thing was corrupt. Well, guess what, dumbass? If the whole thing was corrupt, they wouldn't have gotten broomed out. That's the point. Yeah, they're draining the swamp. That's what it actually looks like.
You knew it. I knew it.
No, you didn't. You didn't even know. You barely know Zelensky's fucking name.
People who voted for Joe Biden, they know it. People who didn't vote for Joe Biden, they know it.
Nah, but that's not fair. People who didn't vote for Joe Biden, most of them don't know their ass from their elbow.
Aren't we in this together as Americans?
Apparently not, asshole. I'm for it. I voted for Joe Biden, and I'm for this. By the way, the vast majority of Republicans are for this. The vast majority of Democrats are for this. this is one of those situations where he thinks like this is reminiscent of the moral majority overlap. We're the silent majority. No, you're not, motherfucker. You're not. Every time you guys speak up, the vast majority of people tell you to shut the fuck up, especially around something like this. And not shut the fuck up, you're not allowed to speak. Shut the fuck up, dumbass.
Because you're about to go into World War III.
Now,
by the way,
Russia already started this part of it. If this ends up being World War III, the rest of the world did not engage in World War II. It did not become World War II because the rest of the world decided, apropos of nothing, to attack German forces in Poland and in what would ultimately be Dachau and fucking Auschwitz. The Germans started World War III, even when they said we're just going into Poland, because that was never the plan. If the idea is that World War III, and we've always believed World War III would be a nuclear war. That's not necessarily true. But in this particular case, calling it World War III, if it rolls into what's effectively a World War III, if you believe that this is a proxy war between us and Russia and yada yada, and not just everybody else defending themselves by supporting the Ukrainians, which is a proxy defense, I would argue. If you're going to say, that this is World War III, the fucking Russians started World War III. They weren't provoked. There was no fucking Pearl Harbor for them. There was no brand new Gulf of Tonkin incident. Remember, he's one of these dickheads who said that World War III was going to start because Marines supposedly blew up the Nord Stream 2.
After Ukraine scored the U.S. tanks.
Yeah, they fucking scored. We put out. How do you like that?
Now Zelensky yesterday said, great. We just need now some modern fighting jets from America, and we'd like missile systems.
They have missile systems.
What?
What? Russia, against what? The Russians are the Palestinians in this situation. How dare they? It's terrible. Glenn Beck hearing all these stories of Ukrainian policemen shooting over a wall at poor Russian children and who are just throwing rocks.
First of all, who the hell do you think you are?
He's the representative of a people who are being slaughtered, dumb fuck. He's not asking for the shit personally. He's in a fucking war. The most struggle Glenn Beck has ever had in his life has been with his own fucking colon. And that was a couple of decades ago, and he all but showed his colonoscopy on camera. But his biggest struggle these days is with his fucking belt buckle. Who the fuck is this guy to say to the vast majority of Americans, how dare you support this?
Second of all, are you out of your mind? Apparently, yes. And so are all of the world leaders.
Yes, all world leaders are insane. The vast majority of Republicans are insane. Vast majority of Democrats are insane. I'm insane. You guys, clearly in the chat, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. But Glenn's the lone sane man on the planet. Because no fucking crazy person or deluded maniac has thought to themselves, oh my God, everyone is nuts but me.
And I have a very big warning for you.
Don't eat Sonic every day. It causes bloat, especially in...
Already, the New York Times is washing their hands for Joe Biden.
Well, I guess they're going to clean up before they shake hands or something like that. The New York Times is washing their hands for Joe Biden. And the look on his face, I guess, presumes we know what the fuck he's talking about.
It is Pontius Pilate. Read the story in the New York Times that is talking about the tanks. Oh, he's doing it reluctantly. Look, I wash my hands of this whole crucifixion.
Oh, shit. So in this one, Zelensky, the Jewish president of Ukraine, is Herod in this situation?
Thing. I see.
Are these the Jews that wanted to kill Jesus, but Pilate denies that it's your choice, not mine.
See no wrong in this man, but I will do what you want me to do.
Oh yeah, there you go. I see no wrong in this man, but I will do what you want me to do. This, by the way, beyond the fact that it's lunacy, this is a shit analogy. He's not even sure who he's aiming it at, Biden or Zelensky in this particular situation. And the idea is that the reason the New York Times is saying reluctantly is because it took them so fucking long. They didn't do it immediately. If they didn't do it immediately, there was obviously some reluctance.
That's the way they are now presenting our tank deliveries. Joe Biden didn't want to do it, but Germany really forced him.
No, Germany didn't want to do it. This was part of the deal. By the way, Glenn does not work with anyone that he doesn't control their paycheck, so he doesn't have to negotiate legitimately with anyone in his life, except for perhaps wife and kids on occasion.
Oh, excuse me. Excuse me.
You're not excused. You are not excused. You're going to just have to sit there in your own puddle.
Our administration really wanted tanks there, but they wanted Germany to do it.
Is that okay? You guys know the story about how Germany makes the Leopard tanks, but they didn't want theirs there because Olaf Scholz had this idea that German tanks on the Russian border had bad optics, and everybody pointed out that it actually looks more like the Nazi-Soviet non-aggression pact than some sort of like Germans in German tanks on the Soviet border, which is a country that both, by the way, don't exist anymore. The Reich doesn't exist. USSR doesn't exist. These pieces of machinery. Again, this goes back to my M4 and handgun analogy. We'd rather the police go in there with just batons because the cartels use machine guns, and it's a bad vibe.
And Germany, after we were pressuring them, said, we're not doing that by ourselves. You want us to do that?
Yes, we all go hand in hand. And also, it wasn't even that they weren't going to give their tanks, is that they had this agreement with anybody who purchased their tanks not to give them to another country without Germany's permission.
You send your tanks and we'll send our tanks.
And yes. And we went, okay, we'll send a few tanks. And then at the end.
We're not sending them by ourselves.
Again, this is... I don't know, this little like melodrama that's playing out in his fucking head is extraordinary.
Okay, Germany's pressuring us. We have to do it. Look out.
Yeah, man. Yep, Germany, Poland, Spain, France, Italy, Estonia. They're sending somewhere in the order of like 300 Leopards now. And the U.S. is sending 31 Abrams that they'll probably train up in Poland, and none of them will be in country for like a year and a half, but whatever.
Look out, America.
Look out, America. It's nuke time, baby. If you look, Glenn Beck is the embodiment of the old George Carlin joke of things you never hear. Here's something you never hear in a movie. Do what you want with the girl, but leave me alone. That's that joke from George Carlin, which I love, is effectively, as analogies go, Glenn's entire fucking argument.
Let me take you back to a place in history so you...
Oh, God. So Stalin and the thing is... Hey, motherfucker, this conflict is 8 years old. The USSR doesn't fucking exist anymore. The Russia and NATO signed the NATO Foundation Agreement in 1997, which stated unequivocally that any country that wants to can either join NATO or not join NATO. Their security is up to them. And then they proceeded to attack dozens of other countries.
You understand, if you are younger, you're not my age.
I don't know. Do like strip mall Santa impersonators age at the same rate as the rest of us?
You may not understand how.
What the? Believe me, it's not an age thing, Glenn. Nobody understands what the fuck you're talking about. It's why they don't cut to Stu more often. So, because he's half the time he's looking at Glenn like this.
Things used to work and how they're supposed to work when you live in a democratic republic. December 8th, 19.
By the way, we dragged our heels getting into World War II specifically because of assholes like this, and the idea that if we'd have gotten in earlier, we'd have gotten out earlier with less death. But apparently, those who don't remember history are doomed to repeat it. Glenn,
1941.
He's going back to well. And by the way, maybe that's who Tucker's talking about. That this motherfucker thinks that what we're doing right now is a redux of World War I or World War II.
Franklin Roosevelt is wheeled into the Capitol, and then with braces on his legs, he struggles because he has polio, no power in his legs. He struggles to make it up to the podium. He grips that podium, and he delivers one of the most famous speeches in the 20th century. December 7th, 1941, a date that will live in infamy.
Right. After Pearl Harbor. There was no Pearl Harbor in this situation. Unless you count Russia as, like, if the Japanese had attacked Pearl Harbor and managed to take parts of California and were murdering people all throughout southern and northern California like they did in Nanjing at the time, maybe the analogy would stand, but you'd still be on the wrong fucking side of it.
He then declares war on the government of Japan. Germany declares war on us.
Right. And we had soldiers, our own troops, we sent there en masse. None of that has happened in Ukraine. None of it. This is just fucking gear, dummy.
But why did he give that speech? To announce that we were going to war? He gave his speech so Congress could then vote on war.
Right. We're not in a war. We are supporting another country in their war. By the way, when we send shit to Israel, which we do all the time, Glenn would jump through his fucking shirt if we sliced a dime off that money. The weapons that Israel uses that it gets from the United States, if we cut that back, this would be a violation of every trust and the root of every Judeo-Christian value that the United States is fucking built on. This is for their defense. We're not calling up fucking troops and sending people over there. We are not. Nor is France and Germany or any of the other people you were like, we've got to hold hands about giving gear.
Now, it wasn't a long debate. It happened later in that day because we were attacked.
And
the day.
By the way, I don't know if you know this, but we chose to be in that war to fight something very specific, even in situations where we were just backing up the French or the Poles or the British. We started a lend-lease with the British because of what was happening to them before we ever joined that shit.
Day before Pearl Harbor happened. So the vote,
yes, we know,
was nearly unanimous. There was only one vote against and one abstention.
Yes, Bernie Sanders and Ron Paul. They're that old.
By the way, the vote against was from a communist in Vermont. I think it was Bernie Sanders, but I'm
That's the running joke.
not sure. The speech was historic.
I would like to say for the record that in this analogy, if you aren't smelling almonds right now, Glenn is coming down on the side of the commie from Vermont that he just decried. So,
But it is important today to look at that and understand the gravity of it.
yeah, okay. Tell you what, if the Russians attack Hawaii, we'll just table this fucking conversation for that.
In the U.S.,
or I guess Alaska. If they bomb Sarah Palin's house, we'll all have a conversation.
per our Constitution, there's a process.
Right. There is a process. We have not declared war on Russia, nor are we going to.
We allegedly have a way we're supposed to do things like committing our military to war. And
Yes, our military is not our shit. Our military are our people. Especially boots on the ground.
and spilling not those in Washington, not their blood.
What does he fucking... Do you think Abrams fucking bleed, dummy? Does he think does he think they get... Take these tanks, you get free Americans. We'll throw in 6 American farm boys for every tank you buy.
Hunter Biden is not going to the front line.
Neither are you, motherfucker. Neither is Stu or anybody in your fucking county, in your goddamn state, unless they want to.
They are not even discussing the blood of our children.
That's because they aren't sending any. What the fuck is he talking about? What is this?
Our treasure.
Oh, okay. Well, that's what he really gives a shit. Our treasure? I'm sorry. Are we going to do... Are we sending them those guns that shoot gold coins again? I was told we weren't doing that, absolutely. And then, about fucking face...
Our good name.
Yeah, we wouldn't have a good name if we just let Ukraine die, because they're the democracy in this situation, and they're being attacked by autocrats who are murderous kleptocrats who slaughter their own people and jail them and that kind of stuff. So...
FDR, that wasn't a photo op.
Well, yeah, it's because there was no such thing as a photo op back then. It was just a photograph took like 19 days. Everybody had to stand still for a fucking week.
He was asking Congress, democratically elected officials, to vote to give him the authority to go to war against Japan, because that is the process.
Uh-huh. Do you know about the stuff we were doing to help the Chinese up to the point that the Japanese attacked us? Or the stuff that we were doing to help the UK up until the point that that happened? Anybody? Did we have to declare war to do it? No.
Well, you're not going to have a choice. You're not.
What? Wait, they've automated the whole thing? What, is AI declaring war now?
Not going to have a choice.
Nope, they're just Biden's gonna walk up, ask ChatGPT which way to the best war, and it's gonna spit out the directions, the instructions, and it'll just 42, son of a bitch.
It will be December 7th. That'll be the first time they actually discuss it in Congress, when we are hit with a massive cyber attack from Russia in response.
Oh, I see. Okay. First of all, asshole, we've already been hit multiple times by massive cyber attacks from Russia, apropos of fucking nothing. Hold on. If I may. Now, one of these things is just so you know, I believe, and I think a lot of you understand, that I believe attempted murder and murder are the same crime. Just because you're a fuck up doesn't mean you weren't trying to kill someone. And you shouldn't get less time so you can try again. Attempted murder and murder should be the exact same fucking sentence. We cool? That's my personal belief. We're not talking about somebody who might be innocent, but we're talking about a guilty person. Person who attempts murder Should get the same amount of fucking time as murder. Gotcha? Same thing. We're good? All right. Now, here's, get the fuck out of here. This little clip. Russian-affiliated hackers plan to attack 400 U.S. hospitals in 2020. A chat room run by a group of Russian-affiliated hackers detailed plans in 2020 to attack and disable 400 U.S. hospitals, the Wall Street Journal reported on March 29th. During the height of the pandemic, hackers hatched a plan via the chat room to hold hospital computer systems hostage. The plan was countered by U.S. authorities and the Department of Homeland Security. They did it, dumb fuck, and they didn't do it because we were helping Ukraine. This predates that shit. They did it when America was on its fucking heels during the fucking pandemic. And you know what? You know what Trump did? I don't know why it wouldn't be. Why it would be Russia. I mean, I've talked to him and very strongly he denies it.
Think of this.
Why don't you think about what you're saying before you fucking say it? This is tiresome.
You're in the Soviet Union.
No, I'm not. Soviet Union does not exist anymore. It ended in the early 90s. Russia and the Soviet Union are not the same fucking thing. They're not the same ethic. They're not the same ideology. Calling them both red doesn't make any fucking sense anymore because red is the associated color with communism. Just ask the fucking Chinese. The Russians have not even been close to that even before they collapsed. They certainly haven't been that ever since. They're a fucking criminal kleptocracy, you dumb fuck.
And people are like, oh, we're not fighting a war against United States. Well, your response most likely would be, the hell we're not. They're sending them all of the missiles. They're sending them the technology. They're sending them the bullets. They're sending them now offensive weapons. This is not a defensive weapon. A tank is not a defensive weapon.
Uh-huh. In many ways, it's a howitzer that you can drive around that has more armor around it so that it doesn't get destroyed as easily. So compared to a howitzer, yes, it is.
It is an offensive weapon. And it even...
It's defensive if they attacked. This is, by the way, you want to go back in a Wayback Machine? We don't have to go to 1941. How about any fucking week this year when this prick said a good guy with a gun stops a bad guy with a gun? You think that... So if a person... And this is a legit question for these motherfuckers. And Glenn, like, this is just a ripe... This is the quintessential, like, fallacy of Glenn Beck's argument right here. This is the essence of how full of shit this guy is. Because if you told him that, like, somebody comes into, there was a guy who robbed a diner and he had a gun, and one of the other people at the place had a gun and he shot the guy who was robbing the place. If I told Glenn that that guy's gun was an offensive weapon, do you think he'd go, that's horrible. That guy we should not be allowing people to get bullets and guns to, that's not a defensive fucking weapon. That's an offensive weapon. Guns, police shouldn't even have them. They should have shields, but no, like, get the fuck out of here. There is no circumstance where this asshole would say, if there are people with guns attacking someplace, don't give the other people, that are police, soldiers, whatever, don't give them guns to fight back. Those are offensive weapons. It's fucking dumb. If you defend yourself with a firearm, it does not change the essence of the gun itself.
It says in the Pontius Pilate is really a good guy article on this today, they even say this is for the offense that Zelensky is planning in the spring.
Yes, to take back land the Russians have taken, which is offensive in terms of taking the land, but defensive in terms of reclaiming their land. What a fucking dipshit. Like, this is an asshole who thinks that that the left can't define women because, we have multiple definitions for it, and he only wants one. Yes, and you're right, Pam. Glenn is pointing out that Zelensky is Jewish. and that Biden, who is not, is the Roman emperor in this, or the Roman governor in this situation, and that he's letting the Jews, he's giving the Jews the ability to kill. And by the way, in this analogy, Russia, the country, is Jesus Christ. That's the analogy. That is the layout of this analogy. Biden is Pontius Pilate. Zelensky is the Jews who wanted to kill Jesus, and Russia is Jesus. Not just Putin, but I mean, I'm sure that's where he's leaning.
I have to tell you.
Can you tell me something that makes any fucking sense?
We're at war with Russia. We are at war. The Biden administration and the war hawks on both the right and the left have decided that we don't need to check with you. We don't need to vote on things. We don't need a consensus. They're just...
Well, we would if we were sending troops. By the way, Glenn Beck did not have this problem around the Iraq War and 9/11. I would just like to say, the idea of like an authorized use of military force that just gets automatically re-upped, and because it's the war on terror, like if Trump was still in office or George W. Bush were still in office, Glenn Beck would be fine with them declaring Russia a state sponsor of terror. Therefore, just use the AUMF and just attack them. You don't need to actually declare war on Russia at that point. It's the war on terror. Knock yourself the fuck out.
Just the stupid people. For those of us who grew up in the Cold War days,
I would argue that you never grew up. I know I'm nitpicking.
But those who grew up in the Red Dawn 80s era.
They passed Glenn by the way. I grew up in them. I had a great fucking time. Glenn is still mad that all that shit you see on the 70s and the 80s where you're like, that looks so fun. I did that stuff. Glenn didn't get to do that stuff. Glenn's still mad.
We only imagine tanks rolling across Europe against Russians, the Russian T-72s, and see U.S. F-16 fighting Falcons going against MiG-29s. We saw that because they were going to attack us, and then it quickly just went into nuclear war.
Did it? Is that what happened? I don't remember. I got to say, like in 1989, I had so much on my mind. Was there a giant nuclear war that we lost? I got to keep better track. Shit. Was that Delta Force? Or is he just... Does he just masturbate to a loop of the end of The Rock? Yeah, it's Failsafe. It's the movie Failsafe. I honest to God don't know what the fuck he's talking about. Like, he is so all over the map with these, like, remembrances and telling us, especially Gen Xers who grew up in that, what we were thinking at the time about our interactions with the USSR. And again, this motherfucker was rah-rah, sis, boom, bah around Reagan.
For those of you who might have been wishing for that, well, your fairy godmother called Joe Biden just...
No, excuse me, he's Pontius Pilate, and he's going to break on this.
Granted your wish.
No. Nukes are not in the air. This is not the last fucking 10-minute broadcast of the fucking Blaze. And he, by the way, for the record, and I'm moving on for this. This clip is 17 minutes. I don't have to do the whole fucking thing. He's just going to say the same shit over and over again. He doesn't have a guest, so fuck him. But there is no point in this where any of his analogies have landed at all, and secondarily, this just seems to be about abdicating any support for democracy in Europe in general, and this oddly, like an odd, particularly stupid mix of isolationist jingoism, which reeks of the kind of shit that made people sit with their arms crossed while the camps were being built at Auschwitz.
We are sending tanks.
Yes, we are. Tanks for the memories. For all the troops we're not sending, oh man.
And we're now allowing several European countries to send F-16 fighter jets.
Oh dear, we're letting them do these things. Why are we letting them do this?
Full stop. No joke, folks.
Yeah, no joke, folks. Come on, folks. By the way, you're right. He did cut his nose shaving. I don't know how. Sometimes the nose clipper gets away from you. You know, you're just... Am I the only person seeing this?
The cream of the crop of U.S. weaponry is going straight up against the Russians on the ground.
Yeah, but we're going up against their old butter that's been sitting on the counter and has a lot of bugs on it and got that hard yellow crust around the edge of it where you're like, it's no longer butter, but it's not quite cheese.
And in the sky, and it will be war.
Wait a minute. You mean it's no longer a special military operation? I was promised a special military operation, and that's as far as it would go.
But no vote, no debate.
That's because, yes, there's been debate and vote and blah, blah, blah about how much. And there were plenty of people who stood up on, I don't think we should be sending shit. And everybody in their party went, fuck you, sit down. You're going to make us lose the midterms.
We don't get a say-so? Do you have a say-so on anything in your life?
Yes, I do. That's where we differ, Glenn. Also, I voted for Joe Biden. By the way, the guy that got us out of Afghanistan, I voted multiple times for people to get us out of Afghanistan. As a matter of fact, both Trump and Clinton ran on getting us out of Afghanistan. Obama was going to get us out of Afghanistan and tried several times. I voted for John Kerry in the second term of George W. Bush because one of the things he was going to do was get us the fuck out of Afghanistan. Biden finally did it. I voted for him to use that kind of judgment. I equate getting us out of Afghanistan as getting our troops, our people out of Afghanistan at the same level of committing arms to support Ukraine for their own fucking use.
Did you have a say-so with this government?
Yes, I voted for them. You can't micromanage it. That's the nature of democracy, dumb fuck.
Do they actually work for the people?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Is this a government of the people?
Oh, for fuck's sake. Bye. Oh my God, that's so fucking tired. And I will say, Glenn, look at fucking Glenn's dumb face.